All praise, all glory, all honors most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the household of faith, and I count it truly a blessing each and every time that I can come before you to preach the word of God, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, I'm going to get right into today's lesson, and the title is The Hypocrisy of America. Again, that's the hypocrisy of America. You know, in this election season, that has been a circus, a 2-year circus. It really puts things in perspective, and the results of that particular this particular election. Many people are enthralled, many people are devastated, but you should know, if you are a child of the Most High God, you are one of the Israelites, you should understand that you shouldn't put your stock in such a country in the first place. That the choices you had were terrible. They were contradictory to the word of God in the sense of what they believed in. And this country, brothers and sisters, is it's just hypocrisy. It's built on hypocrisy. Okay. And I'm gonna just read some things, historical documents, you know, the so-called founding fathers of this country, what they had to say. And then we're gonna look at what they did, and then we're gonna look at the scriptures. Because understand, people are shocked, but I've been telling people for some time now that we are going to experience some more pain as a people. Because when you study history, there's simply this cycle that takes place, right? If it looks like we are progressing, you get backlash, white backlash, and that's what you got right now. And so we're going to feel some pain. It's unfortunate because pain seems the only thing we really pay attention to as a people. So-called Negroes I'm talking to is pain. So we're going to look at this thing. We're going to look at the hypocrisy of America. And is this a godly country? And should we be putting our stock in it? Because Negroes, yes, Negroes. My people act just like Negroes. They are up in arms about this thing. We're going to look at this thing. Let's look. First of all, I just want to read some things to you. Let's go to one of the founding documents of this country, the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson. So he says here, he says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, meaning rights they're born with, you can't take away. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, so this is the foundation for which they led a revolution, right? And here in his speech to the Virginia Convention, Patrick Henry wrote, what would they have? Is life so dear or is peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? He's talking about them as colonists being, he likens what the king was doing to them as slavery. He says, forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Okay, so both of them talking about liberty and freedom. These are some of the so-called founding fathers. These are, you know, this speech and this document was used to inspire others to go the route of revolution, to rebel, all right, to commit treason against, because that's what it was, against the British, right? And they used that word so loosely, liberty, freedom, right? He even likens their position to one who is in chains, and both of them, just like many of the slave owners, found so-called founding fathers of this country, because they're not our fathers. Our fathers are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The founders of this country, which we've been enslaved, they were slave owners. So it is the epitome of stupidity, quite frankly, when you have Negroes, yes, Negroes, celebrating the 4th of July, independence. That word again, liberty, independence, freedom, when we were in chains. And then what we were doing, even in that war, picking sides. You had first bloodshed was by Crispus Attucks, right? You had regiments of blacks in the war, and they didn't want to let Negroes fight at first. And what did they do? They had to, because they needed the numbers. I'm talking about from the colonist side, and they turned out to be some of their best soldiers. But then the British, you had blacks that fought on the side of the British. And what happened to them after they lost? They were parceled. Some of them went to Canada, some of them went to Europe, and some of them in the back in chains, right? So this is the foundation of the country. You got a bunch of slave owners, right? You can't see this whole "Make America," we all one, and that has never been the case. That has never been the case. You cannot make it what it is not. You cannot make it a place that is based on the freedom of other people and treating people right and righteously, when that's not what the foundation was. The foundation is genocide against the indigenous peoples and slavery against the so-called Negro. I'm gonna say that again. The foundation is genocide against the indigenous people, putting smallpox in the blankets, killing all the buffalo, being the first ones to scalp, destroying people who allowed you to survive, genocide against them, and slavery. That's the foundation of the country. It can't be, and what binds it together? Racism. Racism is woven into the very fabric of the United States of America. Racism is as American as apple pie. So when people are up in arms looking around and say, what's all this backlash? These people come out of the woodworks. These people all of a sudden don't like us. Let me tell you Negroes something. They never did. They never did, because this country is based on, again, genocide and slavery and white supremacy. Even though that's the irony, you had a man of color in the highest seat in the land, it's still racism. You still live in a time of Reconstruction and going into a time of terror. That's what's going down. That's why you need to study history, and you would understand that racism hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't gone anywhere. And what we gonna feel as a people is some pain. Why we trying to place our stock in a vote? This is the hypocrisy of America. America talks about democracy, which this is not a democracy, it's a republic, by the way. But they say, hey, we are a land of laws, and we vote for our leaders. When you saw all kind of shenanigans going on with this election, like I said, it was a big circus, Barnum and Bailey. You saw all this tomfoolery, all this cheating, all this low-down degradation, right? I mean, you saw the lowest of the low. I mean, it was ridiculous. That's what it was. It was ridiculous. And this is the irony. You set up a system to ensure that if the people really get somebody that you don't want, you can get them out with the Electoral College, and it worked against some. Right? And you can have the popular vote go to one person and the most popular votes, and they still lose. That's not a just system. That's not a just system at all. And then get mad, and then now I saw a thing today where they want a petition to make the person who lost this election make them president, or at least based on a popular vote, or at least change it coming up. You want to change it? That's just like some people. They want to change the rules once it don't fit them, even though they rigged the game. And I'm not talking about rigging like the president-elect is talking about. I'm talking about just how it's been from the very beginning. How people just change rules. People in power just change rules. Rules count only when they say they count. When they don't want them, they can change. They just step over them, because that's what power is. And I'm going to tell you, yes, Negroes, we keep saying that word. I'm going to tell you Negroes something. Power is not gained through voting. Power is not gained through voting. And if you were to vote for a politician, if you don't buy the politician, if you don't support the politician, if you don't demand anything from the politician, if you can't sway the politician, your vote means absolutely, positively nothing. So people can come to you and do the nay-nay and you are satisfied. They can come to you and talk about they got hot sauce in their purse and you happy and you feel ecstatic. They can come to you and say, man, what in the do you have to lose? They can come to you like that because you have no power. You have no power. You got to think about it. When these conquistadors came to the Americas, when these enslavers and colonizers came here, these killers really what they came massacring people. They didn't get that power through voting. They didn't vote the indigenous out. They didn't vote to get Negroes here in chains. They exerted power, true power. I'm gonna just go to Exodus here, 21. And we're gonna look at the cycle of this thing. And we putting our stock in this country. And we devastated. I'm gonna tell you something. Who you voting for? Satan or Lucifer? I'm voting for Satan. I'm voting for Lucifer. Let me tell you something. I hope you understand. Your plight is hard either way it go because you refuse to serve God. You're going to catch hell either way it go. That's what time it is. And I'm telling you, it's going to get worse. I'm telling you, I've been saying this. I've been saying this. The night is upon us. This is Exodus. I'm going to read something here, Exodus 21. Because we're going to look at the foundation of this thing. And we're going to look at the cycles and what we've experienced. And we can see what the Bible said and see whether or not we can see the cycle and whether or not also this is a godly nation. Again, this lesson is entitled The Hypocrisy of America. You talk about democracy, which is not a democracy, but then you don't practice ethical ways and manners when it comes to electing leaders, right? But then you want to go clear across the waters, invade some country for geopolitical advantage and resources, and destroy millions of people because they don't have a democracy. You want to invade those countries and make them failed states where men, women, and children getting bombed, being displaced, and then you want to talk about some immigration. That's the hypocrisy of America, right? We can't have these people come here. We don't know about them. Well, you raising hell all over the world. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. Where right now, a lot of white people, man, if you haven't noticed, there are racial incidents going on all over the country. The country's in turmoil because this is a waning empire. I've been saying that for some years. That this is a waning empire, and waning empires crumble from within, usually. They have pressure on the outside, but they crumble from within. And that's what's taking place. Look at the educational system. That's what's taking place. Talk to somebody. You understand? We talk to these young people. Talk to the old people. We have a media that does not inform you of what's going on. They entertain you. So your media is messed up when you should be getting your information. Your educational system is in turmoil, especially our people. That's why we need to start educating our own kids in our own institutions. Then, religiously, spiritually dead, economically destroyed, infrastructure around the country is destroyed. Manufacturing, these people talking about, these candidates talking about manufacturing jobs coming back. Let me tell you something. Manufacturing jobs are not coming back. The vast majority of jobs, brothers and sisters, are service sector jobs. More than 80% are service. If you look at the projections, they are service sector jobs. What you need to be worried about is whether or not a robot is going to take your job. That's what you need to be worried about. But I want to read something here, Exodus 21 and verse 16. Because you put in your stock as, we the people of the book. I'm talking about the so-called Negro, so-called African American, so-called black in this country. We are the people of the book. You can take it or leave it. And let's see some things in this book, and we'll see what this country was founded on, and we'll see its hypocrisy. This is Exodus 21:16. This is what the Bible says. It says, in the law, it says, and he that stealeth the man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. Now, what's that talking about? That's talking about kidnapping people and selling them into slavery. Now, according to the law, right, where you had capital punishment because you had a system, and the people had a righteous system given by God by which to exert that type of authority. That's what he felt about it. He said, if you go, and but you got to think about it. Man, these English came, they stole us. Well, we were sold by some Africans to them. They sold it and brought us it. They built a whole economy on slave labor, brothers and sisters. That's our plan. Built a whole economy. We picked millions and millions of tons of cotton. That's what we did for hundreds of years. Don't bring up slavery. If they'll tell you you don't like it now, you don't like it here, why don't you go back to where you came from? And everybody here that's not indigenous came from somebody, say from somewhere else. Hypocrites. You came from a boat on a boat back in the time of the potato famine, and you telling somebody to go back to Africa. Hypocrite. Hypocrite. Because the truth be told, the whole country is owed to black people. You be like, what are you talking about? Man, if you pay reparations, truthfully, you can give us everything in this place. And it still would not be enough. It would still not make payment for what's been done. How you gonna pay for all those people that have been jettisoned, just the ones that's jettisoned on their way here? How you gonna pay for systematic rape of women and slave breeding? How you gonna pay for the selling of children? How you gonna pay for the brutality that we faced? How you gonna pay? Then you get to all the labor. You could give us every bridge, every building, all this fiat currency. That's a bunch of nothing. That's just paper. And you can give us all the gold that ain't in Fort Knox, by the way. They can't even do an audit on them. But nevertheless, you can give us everything, and it still would not be enough. Still wouldn't be enough. But you know what they give you? Symbolism. We give you a museum. Even if you were to give us some, who wants some museum? Some silly Negroes that are led by silly leaders. You want civil rights, man? Like I heard a brother, Dr. Claude Anderson, say, hey, man, civil rights, man, give me some money. Give me some land, right? Something you can feel, something that's monetary, something that you can measure. But it still wouldn't be enough, and we're not getting it anyway. We up in arms about a museum in Washington, D.C., right? That we've arrived. They build monuments to us after they slay our leaders. That's what we get. That's just like, I give you an example of that. I give you an example, prime example. Black Wall Street, Tulsa race riots in 1921. People, you had a prosperous community. A prosperous community of blacks. They work together, black economics, group economics. They work together. Incident takes place. They raise RAZE the whole town. They shooting from planes, dropping stuff from a plane, according to some accounts. Loot the homes, then burn them down to the ground. People, they come at night, set the houses on fire. People running in the streets out their house trying to escape the fire, and they mow them down with their guns. You know what they gave the survivors? I'm talking people that was, some of them 90, 100 years old. You know what they gave them? Because they sued, they took them to court. And you had some of the best black, Johnny Cochran. You had some other prominent attorneys, black attorneys, that took this case. And you know what they gave these people? Did they give them money? No, they ain't giving them money. Did they give them land? No, they ain't giving them land. Did they say, you know what, you ain't gonna have to pay taxes? No. They gave them some medals for surviving the race riot. Can you imagine the disrespect? That's hypocrisy. That's America. So when you see Make America White Again spray painted on the church, understand that's America. When you think about Birmingham and you think about, man, the 4 little girls in the church, when you think about Martin Luther King's house being bombed, understand the nickname for Birmingham was Birmingham. That's how prevalent bombing of churches and houses of blacks was. That's how prevalent it was. That's America. You can't make it something that's not. So why are you buying into it? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So the Lord tell you what he think about those who would steal a man and sell him. And these people, these killers, these enslavers, they have come and they have built a whole economy. The foundation of the economy. When you look at these companies, when you look at these banks, these insurance companies, they had stock in stock. We were the stock. They made money. They made us into commodities. They still make us into commodities. When you look at incarceration, they still make us commodity. When you look at cultural appropriation, when you look at them taking our culture, talking bad about us for our culture, they're taking it and making money off of it. Man, we are destroyed people. But we keep buying into America. America has made you into a heathen. America has made you into an adulterer, a pagan, an idolater, a fornicator, a homosexual, a self-hating Negro. That's what America has made you into. But you keep buying into it. You talking about what we gonna do. Negro, please, what is we? Like we going to war. How you going to war to fight some other poor people of color? How you going to war when you still in 2016 dealing with racism and white supremacy? In every realm, whether it be economics, whether it be education, wherever it is, politically, you're dealing with racism, you're dealing with white supremacy. Even until this day. And you talking about we. You saying the pledge. You singing the national anthem. They always get some Negro to sing the national anthem. Negro. Look at the stanza that they took out. Look at what, and they say, like when the football player, he wouldn't stand. Man, they told you what they thought about him. But then when you look at the lyrics, first of all, it's not true. It's like the Pledge of Allegiance is not true. We not one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That is a lie. That's hypocrisy. But then you look at that. So you mad at somebody who, I believe his mother's Caucasian, his birth mother's Caucasian, his father's is black. He don't want to stand for a song that talks about the bloodshed of the slaves. When you read the lyric that was taken out. But people got the audacity to be upset. Hypocrites. Hypocrites. That's what they are. Some hypocrites. They want to abuse you, terrorize you, and then want you to stand up for something. Man, please. Man, please. So they built their whole economy on this. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Negroes are lost because they turned against their God, destroyed for lack of knowledge. So you buying into something. I'm telling you, just like what Martin Luther King said to Harry Belafonte, according to Harry Belafonte, he said, I fear I'm integrating my people into a burning house. You smell that? I'm telling you, this is a waning empire. It's on its way down. It's on its way down. It can't do nothing but go down. It's just a matter of time. Look at the debt. You know, if you had that much debt in your Man, they come take everything you have and put you in jail as an individual. Look at the debt. They got more debt. I talked about every bridge, every building, everything being sold for reparations. Listen, you could sell every bridge, every building. You could give everything to pay this debt. And you know what? It ain't enough. It's not enough. See, the system is built on some tomfoolery, right? But I'd agree. Hypocrites. This is Deuteronomy 28. So we see the foundation here. You see the foundation of not just here, but other nations, but specifically I'm talking about in the American context. You see the foundation. So what was the foundation? Slavery. So how is this a godly country when it's built on the whole country? The economy is built on something the Lord he didn't want. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. I'm gonna read verse 68. It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Now, what does he mean by Egypt again with ships? Now, he's talking about slave ships, brothers and sisters. But Egypt, when he say Egypt, we're going to find out what he mean by Egypt. Is he talking about literally Kemet or Mizraim? No, because you don't need a ship to get there. We're going to find out what Egypt is. This is Exodus 20, and we're going to pick it up at verse 2. It says, in the 10 Commandments, it says, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Then he calls it something, out of the house of bondage. So he's saying you're going into ships by way, he says you're going into Egypt again with ships. Because he tell you earlier, he's going to scatter you among the nations. What's he talking about? He's talking about I'm bringing you into captivity by way of ships. And that's how we got here. Again, you see the foundation of the country. And why did this happen to us? Well, let's read what happened. Then we'll read why it happened. It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. He's talking about captivity there, or bondage. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies to bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Meaning you're going to be sold as slaves and nobody's going to redeem you out of it. Right? So what happened? We were taken here on slave ships. We were brought here on slave ships and sold. Again, we were the stock. When you look at the history of the stock market, we were the stock. We were the ones they were selling, buying and selling like cattle, buying and selling like a dog, or like some animal, taking your name, taking your culture, taking everything, stripping you of everything, your manhood, your chastity, took everything from you, your sovereignty, your self-determination, and gave you a false God, white Jesus, gave you some terrible food, gave you a horrific existence, gave you their name, so you Negroes are walking around thinking this is us and we, when you are never really a part of this. Us and we, and you talking you with a English last name, with an Irish last name. I'm telling you, you talk about a people who don't know who they are. But why did this happen? This was a curse by God. Not that we're inferior to these people, because that's what they tell you in America. That's what they tell you. So we walk around, our women walk around, man, they put a whole, it looked like some of these women had 2, 3, 4 wigs on, and they're all different colors. All straight hair, all down their back. I'm like, man, are you in disguise? But they trying to fit that white standard. You trying to be white. Be you. Be what God made you to be. Understand, if we were to keep the law, statutes, and commandments of God, we would be above all nations. That's what time it is. But no, we'd rather commit sin and make our lives a living hell. But he tells you why this is why this happened. He said, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded. Disobedience is the reason why we were in slavery. Not because of some curse of Ham. We're in slavery. We Semitic, actually. We are in slavery because we sinned against God. We scattered into the nations because we sinned against God. We're in America because land of hypocrites, because we sinned against God. But that's the foundation of America. Let's go to Deuteronomy. Because they fought this war, right? They fought this war. They fought this civil war that wasn't about necessarily freeing the slaves. That became an issue, right? He needed, you know, anything like the Emancipation Proclamation. People talk about that, but they don't realize that only applied to places where there was slavery behind the Confederate lines. So those border states that were slave states that did not leave the Union, it didn't apply to them. That shows you right there, it wasn't about you necessarily being free. And then what happened? You know, like Frederick Douglass said, hey, let the Negro fight. He'll turn the tide of the war. So Abraham Lincoln, again, the hypocrisy. They think, oh, he the great emancipator. He all this, he all that. Listen, man, you read some of the most racist things you ever want to read. The Notes of Virginia by Thomas Jefferson, and just some of the things that Abraham Lincoln said. He said basically, matter of fact, let me see if I can find it. I might not be able to find it. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. He had no intent of freeing black people. Okay, this is from this book, Killing Black Innocence, the program to control African American reproduction from slavery's end to the present day self-inflicted genocide. It says, well, hold on, this ain't even the one I wanted to read, but I'll read it anyway. Because this says, let us be brought to believe that colonization is morally right, and at the same time favorable to, or at least not against our interest, to transfer the African to his native clime or climate, and we shall find a way to do it. However great the task may be, the children of Israel to such numbers as to include 400,000 fighting men went out of Egyptian bondage in the body. That's ironic. He compares, because he wanted to get rid of all black people out of the country. It just wasn't feasible to put 4 million people on ships back out, because they didn't bring them all at the same time. He wanted to deport. He even had a I don't want to call it an experiment, but he sent some sending some to Haiti, and they all died. Because he believed in what? He believed in colonization. He did not believe, here it is, he did not believe that we were equal. This is what Abraham Lincoln. But see, you want to put him on this pedestal. He freed the slaves. Let me tell you something. You don't know how slaves got free? When those soldiers came in to those areas, even when they was approaching, you know what the slaves did? They walked off. They ran off them plantations and became contraband. They ran off them plantations. They freed. That's how they got free. They put down them hoes. They put down that stuff. And we out of it. That's why they got free. So it says, and them people, it wasn't so much slavery. They understood slavery was not sustainable. It just simply couldn't be sustained. But this is 1858. This is Lincoln. He says, I am not now. This is your great emancipator. Because, you know, Negroes want to talk about our first president, George Washington, who took the teeth out of his, who legend has it, I'll say that, took the teeth out of his slaves' mouths, made dentures, and put them in his mouth. These are the kind of people you hold in high esteem. You got Thomas Jefferson, who took Sally Hemings, and they say he started that relationship when she was a teen. I'm talking like 14, 15 years old. So you got somebody today. Today one would be a sadistic individual. The other would be a statutory rapist. Hypocrites. But they talking about freedom, liberty, and justice for all. This is Abraham Lincoln in 1858. He said, I am not now, nor ever have I been in favor of bringing about in any way the social or political equality of the white and black races. That's your great emancipator. He says, I am not nor ever have been in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor of intermarriages with white people. There is a physical difference between the white and the black races, which will forever forbid the two races living together on social or political equality. There must be a position of superior and inferior. And I am in favor of assuming the superior position to the white man. That's your great emancipator, Abraham Lincoln. Hypocrisy, hypocrite. Read Ron Bennett's work, Forced into Glory. Read that. And then what did this man do? With the you had the 13th Amendment. And it says something, the 13th Amendment, you know, it made slavery, it abolished slavery, except for in the case of a felony. And then what happened? Black men, women, and even children being snatched off the rolls of the South for minor crimes like vagrancy, or made up crime, owing a debt, to not having a job on somebody's plantation, and they put you in chains and hold you in conditions a lot of times worse than chattel slavery. Put them black and white stripes on you and put you in a mine. Have you working for the railroads? Convict leasing for years and years and years. They were doing this. Slavery. So what did you have? I talked about the cycles. You had slavery, then you had Reconstruction, then you had white backlash, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy 21. I want to read something here. It says in verse 22, and if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of God, that the land may be defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. You got to ask yourself the question, who's been hanging on all these trees in this country? Who's been doing that? It's been a so-called Negro. So here, they took us and put us on ships. This is, you see the, enter Egypt again with ships. You see his back. That's America. Land of the free, a home of the brave. To be sold, Negroes. There's an advertisement. There's a ship full of Negroes. Slave diagrams, Brooks diagram. Then it says something, that cursed of God are hanged on trees. You got to ask ourselves, we should ask ourselves, who's been hanging on all these trees? We have been, because we're the cursed of God. We have been cursed by our God, because we sinned against our God. That's what happened, brothers and sisters. And we don't get it. We still trying to instead of trying to get back right with God, to get this curse up off us, to get some relief at least, we want to buy into America. We want to march through the streets talking about no justice, no peace. I'm so sick of that chant. But I read that. That speaks to something. Here we are hanging on trees, brothers and sisters. Here we are hanging on trees. You see that? Can you see that? Hanging on trees. And people laughing. Lynching of Jesse Washington, lynching of George Meadows. We the strange fruit on the trees. So that's, you know, when you look at slavery, and then at the abolition of slavery, what did you have? You had Reconstruction for that short time with seeming progress, right? First elected black officials, hiring rebels. You had a senator, a representative. You had a lieutenant governor, pinch back. You had blacks. You had all these other politicians. You had, you know, black people trying to make towns. But then what did you see? That betrayal in 1877, right? So you have the removal of federal troops out of the South, and you have what? You have terror. You have terror in the South. After they swallowed the dog, as they say, those former Confederate soldiers, they got their land back, and they told those blacks that they had gated 40 acres in the mule too. Some of them, they tell them, hey, listen, you can stay here if you want to work here, but we getting this land back. They got that land back again. They change the rules when they want to. Hypocrites, a bunch of hypocrites. That's the foundation of this country. You can stay here. Then sharecropping, 100 years of sharecropping, right? So that's that backlash. That's that backlash. Then you had civil rights, right? Let me just read something to you. Because we've had poor leadership. Because we had one man who said, I may not get there with you during the civil rights movement. Isn't that what he said? He said, but I'm not afraid. We'll say, I've seen the promised land. I've been to the mountaintop. I've seen the promised. I've looked over, right? Like Moses. But what is he talking about? Is Moses talking about forced integration? Is that what he's talking about? Is that what this book is talking about with his people? See, we didn't have some terrible programs. Integration, I'm telling you, was one of them. Is that what he was talking about? Is the Bible talking about forced integration? Right? Now, the Bible telling you all over to be sanctified, set apart. But is he talking about integration at all? Let's read this here. This is matter of fact, Deuteronomy. I said Exodus, Deuteronomy. He didn't tell, when he was talking about that, I've been in a mountaintop, he wasn't talking about integration. This is Deuteronomy, I'm gonna read chapter 34, because we went from that, right? Terror, right? Being hanged on trees, right? To civil rights, 1955, you had Emmett Till, that murder of that young boy in Mississippi. And of course, the killers got off. Sound like now, no. His mother had, I don't know where she found the fortitude and the courage from to hold an open casket and allow the world to see the terrorism of America, what America is. People talk about terrorism. These terrorists, but you terrorize people for centuries. What are you, hypocrites? Hypocrisy. But Deuteronomy 34 verse 1, it says, and Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead unto Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah, and the utmost sea, and the south of the plain, and of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees unto Zoar. And the Lord said unto him, this is the land which I swear unto Abraham, and unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over thither. So he's talking about land, brothers and sisters. He gave them land. Gave them sight. And that's what freedom, I talked about freedom. Understand, freedom is based on land and sovereignty. It's not based on your ability to vote. It's not based on your ability to go in a diner with some white folks and sit down and have a cup of coffee. And y'all gonna go broke doing it. It's not based on you going and send your kids to some other white school. That's not what it is. That's not what freedom is. Freedom is land and sovereignty. And people around the world know this. That's why those indigenous people, that's why they're going up against, they have been resistant and trying to go up against these government entities about their sacred land. This is why in Palestine, I'm not saying it's their land, but this is why they would throw a rock at a tank. You think about that. What kind of mindset you got when you throw a rock at a tank? Because they say, hey, for real, give me liberty or give me death. Because they say they understand that it is about land and sovereignty. That is freedom. And that's what he gave them. So when you talk about in religious terms, I've been to the mount, I've seen the promised land with that preacher cadence, understand that as people hoop and holler and they move by your oratory skill, that's some foolishness. That's some foolishness. And I'm not making mockery of the man. What I'm saying is the program was some foolishness. Because that's not what it's talking about here. It's talking about land. So where you can put your feet up under the land. And where your children can talk about you and what you did in that land. It's about land. See, I never, ever fight for this country. But if I was in my own land for real, and war was on the horizon, and invaders are coming, it's all on the line. Because I'm not fighting for some GI Bill. I'm not fighting to go to college. I'm fighting for my family, the women, the children, and future generations. That's what it's about. It's always been about land. But these Negroes will tell you it's about sitting down with some white people somewhere. Man, please. You sit down with them, they looking at you looking at them, and they don't like you. They're showing us right now. People are showing their true colors. Listen, if you really wrap your mind around this thing, all these people, a whole lot of, for example, a whole lot of white women voted for the president-elect. You got to think about that. Think about the rhetoric that he was putting forth and that coded language that he was putting forth. Make America great again. Well, what time are we talking about that it was great? And then if you go back to that time, how were black people treated? See, they understand the coded language. That stuff was being perfected by Nixon. When they couldn't just say the N-word. You had back in the day, politicians, man, they just said, niggers. They used to talk about, man, they say the N-word, they'd say whatever. On TV, they didn't care. But that stuff became more and more politically incorrect. But all that pent up, suppressed racism, now it's just coming out. Oh man, they so happy. But they had been feeling that way for all the time. It just wasn't politically correct to speak. Now you got all kind of incidents going on around the country. But it was about land, brothers and sisters. It was about land. So you got civil rights. Then what happened? I talked about Nixon and Reagan and Clinton. What did they do? They pushed forth a program of mass incarceration. I want to read something here that still rings true today. This is Isaiah 44 and verse 42, excuse me, and verse 22. It's talking about Israel. It said, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivered, for a spoil, and none saith restore. What can you find us at? On the chain gang. That's the sound of the man. Get back. Working on the chain. That's where you find us at. In these private prisons. In these federal prisons. Mainly for nonviolent drug offenses. Because, again, when you look at the situation we come from, many of us in ghettos that were made by white people, sustained by white people, you see benign neglect, you see terrible education, you see no opportunity, you see the destruction of the black family, and you say, look at these Negroes. They need to be locked up. They some super predators. But you raising hell all over the earth. 1 million plus civilians died in Iraq alone. Libya, a failed state. Look at Syria right now. Hypocrites. A bunch of hypocrites. So who the super predator? You take killing to a whole nother level. Hypocrites. But it said they stayed in holes and hid in prison houses. Then you come out. See, this is the hypocrisy. See, this is just the ignorance of our people. You want to support somebody who came out who supported a crime bill that put man hundreds and hundreds of thousands of your people in prison for nonviolent drug offenses. One of the most racist pieces of legislation thereof. 100-to-1 crack disparity. Specifically targeted black people. So on one hand, you playing the saxophone on Arsenio Hall, and on the other hand, you putting forth policy Because black people talking about, man, that's our first black president. He like, let me write this bill for you. Let me write this crime bill, put your black tail in jail. Targeting you specifically. So you look tough on crime. They're not gonna put their kids in jail. No, that wouldn't be right. That's just like now with the heroin epidemic. That's all over the country, all over the East Coast mainly, and working its way into the interior, mainly impacting white suburban kids. You know what they want to do? Do they want to lock them up? Are they calling them super predators? No. This is a problem. This is a health issue. See, when it's their kids, it's a health issue. When it's your kids, they some super predators. You better wake up. And you gonna support the person who supported the bill, who called your kids some super predators. Who will say whatever's politically expedient at the time. Who reform welfare. Who kick many black women and infected children off of welfare. What was it, Alabama? She said something about the Children's Defense Fund, talking about the impact of that. You better wake up. You up in arms. And what you better do, stop worrying about who the president-elect is and worry about how to get right with your God. Because it don't matter who president. It just shows you that in the last 8 years, it don't matter who president. It don't matter who president. You still catching hell. You still catching hell. I'll give you an example of it. Even the Affordable Health Care Act. You know, a lot of black people weren't able to even benefit from that particular act because over 55% of blacks were living in states that was not taking the federal funding, so they could, because a lot of these states don't want to have anything to do with it. You couldn't even benefit from it, and really, what is it doing for us? It's not doing anything. What specific plan was for us? You say, well, he got to be the president of the whole country. I'm talking about the president now. They can only sell that garbage to Negroes, because homosexuals wasn't talking that. They wanted stuff specifically for them, and they got it. The Latino population wasn't talking like that. They wanted things specifically for them. The Latino population wasn't talking about we struggling for Asians to have something. They weren't talking about we struggling for these Negroes, African Americans to have something. They weren't saying that. They were like, get out the way. We want this. We want a path to citizenship. The homosexuals say, hey, we want marriage equality. Right? And then what they do, they pass law, policy. And then what they do, lit up the White House in rainbow colors. This is a waning empire. This country's going the wrong direction. And you want to be a part of this? It's a sinking ship. It's a ship with a hole in it. Like I said earlier, if you have some politicians, you buy and make demands. You didn't do anything. All you was just happy with him being a person of color. And then what? Your person of color gave you nothing and then made a demand. Talked about how it would be a personal insult to his legacy if you didn't vote for the person he wanted to be president. His legacy is on the line. You have to ask yourself the question, what is his legacy for helping you? I'm talking about black people specifically, because everybody else asking for specific stuff. What is his legacy for truth? What a job plan specifically for you? Look at the benign neglect in these urban areas. Look at Detroit. Look at Chicago. Look at Baltimore. Let me stop before I say something. Let's go to 2 Chronicles. But see, that's what we want to do. Because what we did was we saw him and we act like he was the Messiah. You know, Negroes was putting him on a pedestal of Jesus. Negroes was talking real crazy. Negroes was putting him on the shirt. I saw so many shirts with, I saw shirts with Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and then the president. Man, if you don't get out of here. Now, I don't agree, because I'm coming from a spiritual perspective as far as our problem. I don't agree with those men's programs. Those men were brilliant men, though. Those men were some of the best of us. I have great respect, even though I don't agree with Dr. King's program at all. I have great respect for him. But at the same time, I mean, as far as what he tried to do, Malcolm X, great respect. Marcus Garvey, tremendous respect. Tremendous respect for him. But I don't agree with that specific program. But nevertheless, those men are in a whole different category. He wasn't trying to come and help black people. At least they were trying to help black people and were willing to die, go to jail, and suffer to help black people. That's not what he was doing. Please get him off that shirt. Why are you walking around with that shirt? But this is what we did. I want to go to Psalms 146 and verse 3. Because you had Negroes, like I said, talking real crazy. Right? We would ride, they shedding tears, crocodile tears, women make makeup all messed up, eyelashes all on their cheek. They done so much crying when he got elected. Yes, we can. And 8 years later, people were so upset, you could tell, man, black people didn't even come out and vote. That's what they felt about their legacy, because they know deep down, regardless of what this media tells you, you know your reality. You know the reality of the people that are around you. You know people are suffering. You know people are without jobs. You know people 1-2 paychecks away from losing their home. That's where we at. You know you can't send your kids to school. You know groceries and medicine. Man, you making decisions. That's what time it is. You look at premiums and healthcare, you like, man, what is going on? That didn't help you. That did not help you. And you're gonna feel the white backlash of it now. Pain is what we pay attention to, though. But this is what we did right here. This is Psalms 146 and verse 3. It says something. It says, put not your trust in man, in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. His breath goeth forth, he returneth to his earth, and that very day his thoughts perish. This is just a man. Now I tell you earlier in that chapter, it say, praise ye the Lord, oh my soul. I will live while I live, I will praise the Lord. I will sing praises unto my God while I have any being. See, that's what you need to be worried about pleasing. Talking about somebody's legacy. Man, again, I'm gonna say something. Because that's so condescending. Doing nothing for people. They give you their vote. They support you. They protect you on that. I'm talking, man, it's black people. It's a lot of black people. It's a lot of black people. You can't even say nothing against the president around. They got a problem with you. Protected you. Right? I'm talking about verbally as far as in their interactions with others. Right? And you did very little for them. And then at the same time, with all due respect, and then at the same time, go make a demand about some legacy? Man, our kids in Chicago got their schools closed. I know you're not the mayor of Chicago, but still it's a national crisis. So you come up with a program, Brothers Keeper, that's not funded. You with all due respect, you as the leader of the country could find the funds. You put some hodgepodge funds together. And just to say something was done when nothing is done. When nothing's done. Look at what's going on in Chicago with the kids in the schools. One of the most dramatic things that can happen to a child is the closing of a school. And you got all these schools closed. Not just there. You look at what's going on across in urban areas across the country. School closing, schools in a decadent condition, and your kids go to school and the tuition $30,000. We live in separate worlds. Like I said, like what the brother said, forget the symbolism, give me some money. No, do something about these schools. Do something. Really wasn't a priority. Really wasn't a priority. So now you're captured populace, voting populace. Now somebody could come again. They could do the nay, talk about doing the nay. They could talk about hot sauce in their purse. They could have an R&B singer sing it to them. And they looking like, really? Mm-hmm. They could have, and I felt, I was disturbed by the mothers. And again, that's their pain. That's their decision. I'm just talking about it disturbed me to see that. For them to be used in that political way, the pain that they suffer to be used for political gain, to stand up there and speak. That hurt me. That hurt me. Because these are the same children who back in the day, she look at, they were all the same group, because Super Predator, that was based on false, that was just falsehood. They some super predators. That disturbed me. That disturbed me to see that. We put out, but it says here, but now your trust in princes, knowing the Son of Man in whom there is no help. Your true help not coming from these people. It's not coming from them. It's coming from the Most High. That's where it's coming from. It ain't coming from them. You had man, black people that went crazy when that man got elected. They was talking about, man, I saw one lady say, he gonna pay all my bills. Negro, is you crazy? He not paying. Man, if you don't pay that light bill, them lights going off. Right? People tell me, I got a phone. Listen, man, shoot. You better get a clue. He tell you what we need to do, though. He tell you what the solution is, and not to put your trust in man. It's not for you to go vote. Let's read something here. This is 2 Chronicles 6. And I'm going to pick it up at verse 12. It says, and he stood, talking about Solomon, and he stood before the altar of the Lord in the presence of all the congregation of Israel and spread forth his hands. So Solomon, at the dedication of the temples, he made this significant prayer. And I'm not going to read the whole prayer, but so he raised his hands up, he starts praying. I'm going to read this portion that he prayed, and then this prayer was divinely confirmed by God. Because why am I talking about this? Because this is the solution. He didn't tell, first of all, he was talking about what he was giving you was land. Secondly, he wasn't telling you, you don't read voting as the solution. Nor do you read picking up a gun and going to kill some people. You don't read that. Nor is it, man, we need to get our economics together, because your whole situation is spiritual. That's why I say those men, they program I didn't agree with, because they didn't understand it from a spiritual perspective. And if you don't understand it from a spiritual perspective, you don't understand it. You can talk about Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism all you want to. But if you don't understand this thing from a spiritual perspective, you really do not understand the problems, and you do not have the solution. We've tried that. People talk about Pan-Africanism not as if it was new. You had Pan-Africanists in the 1800s. Yes. It's not new. But this is so he raised his hand in prayer, and he said something. I'm gonna skip down to verse 34. It says, if thy people go out to war, his people are the children of Israel, against their enemies by the way that thou shalt send them, and they pray unto thee toward this city which thou hast chosen, and thy house which I have built for thy name, then hear thou from the heavens their prayer and their supplication. It says, in their supplication, and maintain their cause. If they sin against thee, for there is no man which sinneth not, and thou be angry with them, and deliver them over before their enemies, and they carry them away captives unto a land far off or near, like we was carried in this country into the hell of America. Then it says, yet if they but shall think themselves in the land whither they are carried captive, and turn and pray unto thee in the land of their captivity, saying, we have sinned, we have done amiss, and have dealt wickedly. If they return to thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their captivity, whether they have carried them captives, and pray toward their land, which thou gavest unto their fathers, and toward the city which thou hast chosen, and toward the house which I have built for thy name, then hear thou from the heavens, even from thy dwelling place, their prayer and their supplications, and maintain their cause, and forgive thy people which have sinned against thee. He did not tell us to go vote. He did not tell us to go in the streets and march with signs talking about Black Lives Matter. He did not tell us to do that. What he told us to do was to repent from our sins, to turn back to God with our whole hearts. We need to acknowledge what we've done. And when you read, that's what Daniel did when he was in captivity. But we need to do that as a nation. We need a revival amongst our people. We need a reformation amongst our people. We don't need to go out and vote. You ain't even picking nobody in the first place. How you gonna have you're gonna have the most popular votes and still lose for a candidate that was chosen for you? See, a bunch of shenanigans was going on. Talk about free elections. Well, it's obvious that these people, it's about who have power. See, people with power are stepping over people. It just so happened that it didn't work this time. It didn't work this time. You getting the questions for the, allegedly getting the questions for the debate, which is unethical, right? You basically making sure somebody else don't win, right? Then all this mudslinging. Isn't it funny how you could be talking about some person? This person ain't fit to lead. This person, they eat babies. This person got some people buried in their basement. I mean, you got all kind of stuff that's said, right? And then you doing the same stuff, by the way. Hypocrites. The hypocrisy of America. But then at the end, here's the flip side, right? This man's a fool. This woman is weak. This woman about to drop. She ain't fit physically, right? All these things you can say, but then at the end, I mean, you can do so much. I mean, when you look at some of those primaries, man, they talking about people's wives. They talking about the size of people's hands. I mean, they got real personal and dirty. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's politically expedient. And you say, you know what? I can see he's a great candidate. He's this. You know, we all need to support him. But you just said he was unfit to lead. You just said she was unfit to lead. You just said she's a criminal that needs to go to jail. So if she's a criminal that needs to go to jail, how does that weigh with what you said? You know, I got a lot of respect for her, and she's done so much for this country. Which one is the truth? Or do you just say anything? Hypocrites. That's politics. Why are you putting your stock in that? Negroes is nervous. Yeah, you're going to feel some pain, but that's America. It ain't like we ain't been here before. We've been catching hell since we've been here. And then you know what? Now somebody get elected, you say, oh no, and we gonna catch hell. We've been catching hell. Only problem is you've been asleep. Now you're like, wait, what's going on? Oh no, how did they let this happen? Because it's a waning empire. That's how. But this prayer was confirmed. Because it says in chapter 7 and verse 1, now when Solomon had made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering, because he made burnt offering sacrifices. And it says, and the sacrifices and the glory of the Lord filled the house. And the priest could not enter into the house of the Lord, because the glory of the Lord had filled the Lord's house. And when all the children of Israel saw how the fire came down and the glory of the Lord upon the house, they bowed themselves with their faces to the ground upon the pavement. They knew it was a God, and worship and praise the Lord, saying, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. He divinely confirmed that prayer. So that's what we need to do. You Negroes need to get out the streets. People walking around up and down the street right now talking about using the F word and putting the president-elect name after it. They tearing up stuff in Oakland. They mad in New York. They mad in Chicago. Sit your butt down somewhere and get some understanding. Negroes, that's what you need to do. Sit your butt down and get some understanding. This is verse 14. It says, if my people which I call by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Turn from your wickedness. Don't go out and vote. Turn from your sin. Don't go out and march. Stop being a pagan idolater. Keep the Sabbath day. Keep all the feast days. Put that swine down. Stop fornicating. Stop committing adultery. Stop stealing. Stop murdering your brother in the streets. That's what you need to do. Turn to God. Come about these false churches. These white sepulchres. These pimping preachers that lead you astray. Let's go to Matthew 24. Because ultimately, brothers and sisters, it's going to be a time we're going to get some land. Talking about some integration. Negroes talking about voting. You tell somebody you ain't voting. I told people, my family, ask me, what you think you this vote? I said, I'm not voting for either one of them. And I tell them why. And this so they can't get past the point where you say you're not voting for either one of them. Well, I guess that's the end of the conversation. I guess it is. Because what you're talking about, you ain't talking about nothing. When you look at the record, I couldn't possibly vote for either one of them with a clear conscience. Why would I vote for them anyway? Why would I do that? And really, when black people tell you to vote, they really only tell you to vote Democrat. But these people, like I saw in a Facebook post, somebody said, hey, they both got things that are antithetical. They ain't use that word, but contrary to the word of God. Did nobody really like that? Did nobody really like that? They did not like that post. But people talking about, I'm taking my child to vote. See, what happened was, I won't say it was funny, because it's not funny, because people gonna suffer. But man, Negroes really thought they vote. They going to the polls. I'm taking my child to the polls. Right? I saw one said we got a choice between the first woman president and the first Oompa Loompa. It's wrong to disrespect the office. And now that who you calling Oompa Loompa is your president-elect. And people got what they deserve. When you look at the media and what they did, what did they do? They propped this person up for ratings. They didn't even show you look at the other candidate who was more left-leaning, more progressive. They didn't even show him. But he has all the experience politically. No, perfect. What I'm saying is they didn't show him because the other one is good for ratings. And you know what happened? You got to laugh at ha. You thought he was a fool. That man's not no fool. He can speak to a people that it doesn't sound polished by any means, but he could tap into things in those people and what they feeling. And now it turned from something funny, then it turned, hold on. Now we got to stop this thing. He done beat all these people. Now so wait, hold on. We gotta make it. And man, they were throwing the kitchen sink at him. I mean, for a week straight, all you kept hearing was what he was grabbing. Right? And you know, the people went in the polls and said, so, click them. They did not care. They did not care. And the person you just propped up there, assumed was going to win, did not. Now you got people that's invested in that was going to prosper from that particular, if that person would have won, now they don't know what to do. Now they out in the cold. Now, man, people that lost jobs, all kind of dirt that came up on him, and all that stuff rolling off of that man like water. Like water. But don't put your stock in no man, because it's going to come a time when we're going to be redeemed as a people. So this is Matthew 24, verse 29, it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And what is he going to do? And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds of heaven, from one end of heaven to the other. Who are his elect? Let's go to Isaiah, the 45th chapter. His elect, brothers and sisters. It says, for Jacob Isaiah 45 and verse 4. It says, for Jacob, my servant's sake, and Israel, mine elect. I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. See, Israel is his name, one of his names. And that's his elect. And he's going to regather them in. He didn't say he's going to do it in 1948. And furthermore, if they're the Jew, he said he gathering Israel. He ain't gathering one tribe. They're not even the true people. If you didn't know that, Jesus was a Jew. For example, Jesus was a Jew or Judean because he was from Judah, the tribe of Judah. What about the other tribes? Now, that was some Zionist. That was a Zionist plot, is what it was. That's not the fulfillment of prophecy. He's talking about he gonna gather his people when he come back. Not in 1940. That's not prophecy. Those people are not even the people. He said, I know the blasphemy of them would say they are Jews and not, but are the synagogue of Satan. And that's what you got there. Ezekiel 20. But people are biblically illiterate, so they can fall for that foolishness. That's just like, I'll give you an example right now. You got tribes, you got descendants of Israel who have oral traditions scattered throughout Africa. And what these people would do, they would go there and try to make them legitimate, right? And then they make them Jew. Listen, who are you to go to these people and make them anything? You a convert. You go back to where you don't go back. Go somewhere else. You going to Nigeria talking to the Igbo that we're gonna make you legitimate. We're gonna do some DNA. What the limbo? We're gonna go to the limbo. We're gonna listen. You don't know. You're not even the people. Who are you to make somebody legitimate? Nobody. Synagogue of Satan. But then they'll throw that word anti-Semitic, which is it's the word that means back up off me. Ezekiel 20 and verse 33. The prophet writes, as I live, saith the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand and with the stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. God is talking about his people that are sinned against him. He's going to regather them. He said, I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered. So we in America, while we take a stock in America, we done become a bunch of idolaters and fornicators and homosexuals and lesbians and just all out the box, right? Full of self-hatred. He said, I'm going to gather you from all those people. We trying to be American. He talking about, I'm going to gather you and bring you into your own land. And we talking about some integration. Negroes better wake up. And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. He's going to finish his ministry there. He's going to deal with us, just like he dealt with our fathers in the wilderness. Like as I plead with their fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Lord God. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. You're going to come into this covenant. You're going to come, and it says, I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. That's what's about to go down. And he's going to establish his kingdom here on this earth. See, like people ask me who you voting for. I'm voting for the Messiah. That's what I'm voting for. Because I know he going to have something that's going to last forever. I'm going to tell you, I'm not thinking about these people. I don't put my trust in them because I understand whoever is in office, the Lord can provide, the Lord can make a way. I'm trying to serve him. I'm trying to get right with him, and I want my people to get right with him. Then we can have something. But how you going to God when we the only people that he gave his law, statutes, and commandment to? Only you have known of all the nations of the earth. And he said, therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquity. How are we the only people that he came unto, and yet we don't do anything that he says? We don't do anything that he says, but we want to cry out to him. When our kids get shot, when our kids are getting massacred in the streets by each other or by police, or when we look at our economic situation, we want to cry out to God. But You ain't doing, how you crying out to a righteous God and you ain't doing nothing righteous? When he gave you the law, when he tells you what you need to do, as my people will call by my name, would humble themselves in prayer and turn to seek my face. That's what we need to do. But this is Revelation 11 and verse 15. It says, and the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. See, I'm trying to inherit that kingdom. I don't care about this place. I'm not saying I want something bad to happen, but I'm looking for, I'm trying to inherit the kingdom of God. Christ is my king. That's why I want to reign. Because I know, like I said, these men, they make mistakes. Even if they had a genuine or sincere goodwill toward the people they're ruling over, they can make mistakes. There's no mistakes in God. I don't put my stock in this place. Because this place, they tell you that it is one nation under God, right? But it is hypocrisy. I'm gonna ask you some questions. How is, let's go to Leviticus 20. How is this a place, one nation under God? When they say, you know, the presidents will say, God bless you and God bless the United States of America, right? Like I said, you got that one nation under God, indivisible pledge. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, right? But how you a godly nation? Let me read this here. Leviticus 20 and verse 13. If a man also lie with mankind as he lied with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Now, how are you a godly nation when it is legal for men to marry men and women to marry women? How does that work? How is that of God? What God is that? The God of this world? You should say on the money, in the God of this world we trust. Satan, that's the God of this world, right? You should say, may Satan bless you, may Satan bless the United States of America, because that's who you're serving. You're not serving the true and living God. Look at you talking about a country where you could ride down the street. I mean, down the road. This is how morally decadent America is. You can ride down the road and then see a sign advertising a place where women are going to be taking off their clothes and have to explain to your son or try to skirt the question of what a gentleman's club is. Dad, what's a gentleman's club? That's America. But it's in God we trust. Hypocrites. What God, again, the God of this world, it couldn't possibly, you can't be talking about the true and living God. Because the true and living God said this in Deuteronomy 23 and 17, there shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. That's how he feels. So if he don't want that for his children, he don't want that, period. You see that when Paul went to the Gentiles and he talked about the things that they were doing. Like, you need to stop. But this how, if you know God, you know you'll deal with his law. But that's not what this country is doing. Shoot, right now, even though they wasn't following it, they taking down the 10 Commandments in courts. You got straight up Satanists talking about, hey, we want to have a program for the kids in the schools. You got in the schools the male children are able to go to the girls' bathroom. I saw one where this boy, this how crazy it is right now. It's a crazy time we're living in. It's a wicked time. A boy who put some weave in his head, and I guess he dressed as a female. He ran track, and they made it to where when they qualified for state, they put him in it. Now, how is it fair? You a boy. If you didn't know, men are stronger than women. Men's lung capacity, men are faster than women. Men's lung capacity is greater than women's. How do you kick a girl? He took a girl's spot. How do you take a girl's spot on to qualify. Now this obviously, if you qualifying for state, more than likely you didn't even just start running in high school. You probably started running in middle school, in junior high. You know, you've been running for a minute. So you put some time in. That ain't no joke. You put some serious time in to be one of the best in the state. And they took that spot from that female and gave it to a boy. Because you dressing in a dress and put some weave in your hair, let me tell you something. Don't make you a woman. I'm going to tell you something else. You can cut off whatever you want to cut off. That doesn't make you biologically a woman either. But this the country we in. Let's go to, let's see. Talking about this is a godly country. Let's go to Psalms 127 chapter. 127 division of Psalms. Because this is a godly country, so they say. This is Psalms 127, and I'm gonna pick it up at verse 3. This is what it says in the word of God about children. It said, lo, children are an inheritance of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. Why did I read that? Because you living in a country that's not only made marriage between homosexuals legal, you in a country that since Roe v. Wade has killed approximately 60 million children. You in a country that black people, our people, because we talking about Black Lives Matter, right? Somebody get killed in the street, as tragic as that is, right? By the police, as bad as that is, we have decimated 25, what would be equivalent to 25% of our population through abortion. So why are you talking about Black Lives Matter? If Black Lives Matter, stop aborting your children. That's real talk. If Black Lives Matter, stop killing your children, stop ripping your children out of the womb. People want to say, well, it's because, you know, you got to have abortion because of incest, because of health of a mother, because of rape. I'm gonna tell you, rape, incest, health of a mother, all them, the abortions that have been for those reasons don't even equal 10%. Women are aborting their children. Black women are aborting their children because it is inconvenient to have a child. But then you talk about Black Lives Matter, that's hypocrisy. How you talk about Black Lives Matter, you ain't talking about abortion. You ain't even addressing the killings of our own people. I know that's what white folks say. First of all, white people they don't have, and I'm saying in general, yes, they do not have a moral leg to stand on to open their mouth pertaining to that. They don't, because they won't even acknowledge they role in that, because they can't see past their own racism. They can't see the creating of the conditions and the many sinister things that have been done to destroy Black life. But what I'm saying is nobody's coming to save us. Some benevolent white man ain't coming to save us. No benevolent white woman that carry house sauce in her purse and do the nay-nays coming to save you Negroes either. You got to be right. You got to stop sinning and turn to God. My, would you kill, Black people kill what, 14, 15 million of our babies. You know what they doing with baby parts? They selling the parts. It's a wicked. You talk about in God, like I said, the God of this world. Let me just show you something here. This is Exodus 21. You talking about 60 million since Roe v. Wade. This is Exodus 21. I'm gonna pick it up at verse 22. Exodus 21 and verse 22. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. It says, and if mischief follow, meaning if the child in the womb die, and then it says, then thou shalt give life for life. So you can't say that's just a clump of cells. That ain't nothing. You know, I was talking to young people, they hurt my eye. I almost went off because just the ignorance of our people. Because you can talk about, again, police brutality, which is bad. You got police departments. Shoot, I'm not overlooking that. You got police department in Alabama. They were specifically targeting. They were planting drugs on black men without a record and specifically targeting them so they can get them in the system. You think they're the only ones? FBI came out with a 2005, I think 2005 report talking about, hey, white supremacist groups have infiltrated the police departments around the country. You know, you see these sinister things. People getting choked out on camera. People running, get shot in the back, then a taser planted by them. You ask them for their light, the police asking for a license, he go in the car to get it, and he shoot them. All kind of stuff going on. These cops shooting in the neighborhood. Cops shouldn't even be able to do that. They shoot because there's people walking around. I saw that one in Chicago, man. I said, man, this crazy. Then they try to act like they was getting shot at. They shooting at each other. They shooting all in the street in daytime. Now some kid walking around there, they shoot him. Oh well. Then they'll blame the boy that got shot on that murder. Hey, so all kind of stuff is going on. It's like I saw a picture recently. A young man looked like I think he overdosed. They took a picture. The cop or the police officer is holding his arm of the dead body and putting the thumbs up, smiling at the camera. Man, you sick. You sick. Something wrong with you. Real talk. Something is wrong with you. But he said here, life for life. So I'm not overlooking that. What I'm saying is we can't keep aborting our children. We can't keep looking. That's the thing we don't want to talk about. Even though abortion rates have decreased or went down a little bit, they still sky high. You got a place like New York, half the last time I checked, half the births half the pregnancies end in abortion. New York City. But let's go to Leviticus. Because you talk about, you think about that from a political position too, right? You talking about you vote Democrat, well, they all about a woman's right to choose to kill a baby, right? But let's go here, because the Republicans, they ain't for that, right? They try to take the moral high ground, so to speak. But let's read this. Let's go to Leviticus 19. This Leviticus 19, and we want to pick it up at verse 9. Leviticus 19 and verse 9. It says, in the law, and when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly reap the corners of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of thy harvest. Why not? It says, and thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and stranger. I am the Lord your God. See, one of them want to kill you in the womb. The other one want to kill you when you come out through austerity measures. That's what I'm saying. Why are you putting your stock in these people? But you got silly Negroes. I mean, I'm talking straight up coonery going on. That would do things that are straight. See, that stuff is detrimental. I'm not gonna say their names on here, but I've seen two women, meeting every stereotype. Talking about the president-elect who became president-elect, they sipping Kool-Aid, hitting every Republican line. But then it's really disheartening. These people actually, we need to, not them, they're not significant in the sense of being celebrities, but people who do things that are detrimental, that are celebrities, we need to hold them accountable. You know how you can hold them accountable? By not supporting them. See, if somebody get on TV and talk about racism dead, it don't matter because they got money, don't support them. Don't support them. But like I said, how is this a godly country? With 47, so you got on one politically, you got some that say, hey, kill him in the womb. You got that right. And the other say, hey, take all the cut. We need a balanced budget. Ain't no balanced budget for these. You know who get more welfare than anybody? These corporations, these banks. They're gonna bail out these banks. But you got 47 million Americans in poverty. How's that? We're supposed to be the richest country in the world. Because you don't care about people. That's not a godly nation. That's not a godly nation. You send these vets over there to kill people, to carry out your war. They come back with PTSD. They come back with a high suicide rate. They come back to unemployment, inferior health care, can't get a job. Man, just disrespect. Let's go to because people talking about what they were. The sister, she sent me she just typed in a message. She said, well, what do you think about Trump? This is what I think about Trump. Let's go to Daniel. Excuse me, the president-elect. People walking around the city, they better sit their butt down somewhere and focus. They talk about, they people just confused. They just going crazy. What is burning that stuff? You gonna listen. Man, people in for a rude awakening. People in for a rude awakening, but they should expect this. This is Daniel 4. I want to read this here. Because here, this is Nebuchadnezzar, and he's put in power. He's the king of Babylon. And it says something in the book of Daniel. It says something here in verse 16. It said, let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. So there's a time that Nebuchadnezzar was out there with the beast. His nails were growing long. He out there, he had messed up his mind for 7 years. And it tells you why. And this is what we need to understand about whoever's in any office, about whoever has power. It says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. That's what I think. That's what I think. It could be, and what reason is that for? Hey, well, my pay grade, as they say. But I know what the Bible say. I know he'll set up the basis of men. He'll set them up. And that's what he do. And he'll set them up with a place of fall. So with that, brothers and sisters, I want to say peace to you. I want to say you need to keep the faith, whoever in office. And our people need to consider. What we need to do as a nation, not America, but Israel. We are a nation within a nation. We need to come out of this system, spiritually speaking, and turn back to our God. That's the solution. You vote for whoever you want to. Peace to you. Keep the faith. Keep the faith.